Welcome to the PFO channel. I'm Jim. I know I got a mess on my table here, but I'm getting ready for a road trip. My wife and I are heading out across the northern states. We're going to drive from Michigan to Montana, and we do that a lot, but this particular trip is going to have one more potential complication, and that is that it's January. We go to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and then across to Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, and then into Montana, and we've hit some bad weather out there. It's about 30 hours of actual driving time. We break it up into 3 days. We spend 2 nights in the hotels along the way and 3 days of driving. But a lot can go wrong in a 30-hour road trip, particularly in the dead of winter. Now, before we plan the specific day for this trip, we watch the long-term forecast for, well, we start watching that usually a week or two before we go. And we look for a window of 3 days in there that looks like no winter precipitation and no extreme sub-zero temperatures. And that's what we've got coming up here. But as we've all seen, those weather apps, they can sometimes nail it right on and sometimes they get it wildly wrong. So anyway, we hope for the best and we plan for the worst. Some of this stuff is for any old road trip, but we have some extra precautions because of the fact that this is the dead of winter. So let's go through some of the stuff. I'm going to have to do this in waves because I've also got stuff in the bags back here that I just don't have room for on the table. You know what? Let's start with the bulky stuff and get it out of the way. My wife and I are both traveling, so we have 2 wool blankets. I always bring my vintage Hudson's Bay point blanket and then this other wool blanket. These go in the passenger compartment. In fact, I'm going to put those in there right now and get them out of my way. So next, let's talk about these things here. This is an indoor safe. I don't know what it is. Caution hot. That's what it is. There it is. Little Buddy. The Little Buddy by Mr. Heater. And this, you can hear the rattling in there. They've put a brand new upgraded rollover valve. If this thing tips over, it automatically shuts off. And that's what you hear clunking around in there. We are going to crack a window if we have to use this, even though it says it's indoor safe. But, you know, better safe than sorry. If we were to find ourselves in a snowbank, which is a distinct possibility, if you've ever driven across North Dakota in the wintertime, it can get incredibly drifty out there. There's really high winds. There's very little to stop the drifting. Actually, at every exit ramp out there, they have big gates that they can close across the expressway and force all the traffic off. We made the mistake one time, first time we were ever going across there in the winter, and we encountered one of those gates and the highway was closed. We thought, well, we'll just drive north to the next east-west road and cut across there and get back down to the expressway somewhere else. Well, it's probably a safe assumption that if there's enough drifting going on to close the interstate, there's enough drifting going on to close any other smaller east-west road anywhere near there. That's what we found. We are prepared to hunker down at the exit if we're forced off the expressway due to drifting or conditions. If by some chance we were stranded in a snowbank or went off the road, and I mean, crazy things can happen in the wintertime when the visibility can be so bad that you can be just off the road and nobody can see you. And we've got some precautions against that, but one of those precautions is we want to stay warm if we have to stay in the vehicle for an extended period of time without the engine running. And if the snow is up encroaching on the exhaust, I don't think it's safe to set and idle your car. If you're in deep snow, it could cause the carbon monoxide to accumulate in or around the vehicle. I have 2 of the 1-pound canisters. This one's been on the shelf here quite a while. I don't do first in, first out, obviously, because I only paid $2.37 for this, and they're up over $5-6 now. That ought to keep us warm until help arrives. This is a double wall stainless steel 1-gallon water jug. We carry this with us all the time, and this is handy on any road trip. For example, when we were in Moab, 104 degrees, if you suck your water bottle dry on a hike, it's nice to know that there's some water that's somewhere less than 104 degrees waiting for you back in the car. In the wintertime, we have found this has so far been enough insulation to keep it from freezing if left overnight in the car. I just topped off the washer fluid. That's a big deal. especially for winter, because if you get behind a truck and there's salt, slush, and stuff coming up off the roads, it's amazing how much of that washer solvent you can go through. On the out and back, we're talking 60 hours of driving in winter conditions. We will probably be stopping to buy at least one more of these somewhere along the way, but I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the car, and that'll get us, you know, the next refill. Like I said earlier, some of these things are for any old road trip. Some of them are specific to winter. I like to have some radiator stop leak. That has actually saved me more than once. Out in the middle of nowhere, I mean way out in the boonies in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, we were a long ways from help. And my son and I saw the car overheating. We had to have taken a stone when we left the highway, and before we noticed a problem, we were well off of the beaten path. And I looked under the hood, and there was a stream coming out the radiator the size of my pinky, just a steady stream. And I poured some of this stuff in it, and while we watched it, it got smaller and smaller and smaller, and finally it stopped that leak. That got us out to civilization so I could get the radiator repaired. But this is really good to have. Fix-A-Flat, yeah, I don't go anywhere without Fix-A-Flat. A little can of WD-40. And this is the piece of the fluids that is specific to the winter weather. Gas line antifreeze. I don't put one in every tank of gas on the road. I would go through lots and lots of these. But I like to have one with me just in case. Get this big jug off of here. This is ice melt. It's more expensive than cat litter, but I prefer this. I'm not sure why I prefer this. I've done both, but I like to have a jug of this in the car with me. All right, let's take this next. This is a pair of old school jumper cables, but that goes along with this. This is my Viking 1000 peak amp jump starting box. This is a lithium ion. This is amazing. I always looked at these with a little bit of skepticism. I thought, how could that lightweight, tiny little thing jump start a vehicle? Well, I have used this on the pickup trucks, the FJ Cruiser, the Venza. We had some battery issues. You're like, well, why do you get that many dead batteries around that place? Yeah, sometimes I drag my feet when I know it's time to replace a battery. But this thing really works well. It does everything it's supposed to do. Ever since I bought this, I've been thinking, I don't know why I didn't buy one of these 30 years ago. Well, they didn't have them 30 years ago. That's probably one reason. So that's my jump starting kit. This is electronic, so it could also go bad, so I always have the old school jumper cables just in case. Okay, let's talk about these together. Speaking of high-tech and old school, this is a package of old school road flares, kind you actually light and they burn on the side of the road. I just bought these. I saw these quite a while ago, and I've been wanting to add some to my kit. Well, I finally buckled down and bought some, and these are pretty cool. They do that. And there's a couple of different flash modes: the fast flash, the slow flash, the swirly, and the, I don't know what you call that, pulsing, and then just a deet, deet, deet. Oh, you know what this is? Dot, 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 dash, 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 dot, dot, dot. Okay, it's flashing SOS. That's cool. I didn't know that when I bought it. And then solid red. And this is a flashlight here. This sheds some light, but you don't want to pick these up and use it as a flashlight. So there's 3 of these in here, and these are the USB-C rechargeable. I like having as many things as I can get that are USB-C, so I don't have to carry around a whole bunch of different charge cords. So that's a good addition to the kit. The flashlights on that give a good segue into the next thing. I like to have at least 2 different types of flashlights, and I usually have more than one of each type. One type is a headlamp, and I like to have a pair of these, one for myself, one for my wife to use, and I've got just a handheld, and this is, I made this cord here It's a thumb button. This also is rechargeable, but this is micro USB, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's micro USB. And then I have this little inexpensive, got a spotlight on the end and kind of a floodlight LED on the side face there. This is a tire plug kit that I put together. It's got the standard pieces of the, to clean out the hole and then to insert the little plug thing. I added a few more bits and pieces to this kit. This is a tool to pull Schrader valves out of the valve stem. If you have a valve stem leak, this will clean off the external threads. These will clean off the internal threads. So this helps you fix up a stem leak. And of course I've got a little package of replacement Schrader valves. And I bought a refill pack of plugs there. Not sure where I got this handy little pouch, but it fits perfectly for that stuff. This is not specific to winter, but I started carrying this with me mostly for the travel trailer. It's an infrared thermometer. Rather than going around at gas stops and feeling the hubs to see if your trailer brake is dragging, you just hit it with this and that'll tell you right now 9 degrees. I think we're good on that hub at the moment. I haven't dreamed up another point of use for that, but it's kind of cool to have around. It doesn't take up much space, so I usually carry that with me on any road trip. Very much not specific to winter, other than if you're just curious about how cold is it out here tonight when we're spending the night in our car stuck in a snowbank with our Mr. Buddy heater and our wool blankets and all that. Well, this will tell you exactly how cold it is. This, I need to unzip it. Oh, I know what this is. This is my code reader. This is a Zurich ZR13S. When my check engine light comes on, particularly when I'm away from home, going into a repair shop when you're miles from home or days from home, and it just feels a little vulnerable. So I like to know roughly what the codes are that it's throwing before I get to the repair shop. And quite often it avoids the repair shop because depending on what it is, if I can figure out what it is, I can fix it next to the road quite often. Speaking of fixing it next to the road and diagnosing, I got a voltmeter here. That's pretty much indispensable. So that's my little electronics for fixing stuff. Well, I guess the tire plugs aren't electronic, are they? All right, some tools. These are tools that I carry with me just in case I need to do a tire change. The jack, it's one thing relying on that goofy little jack on the side of the road, but I do not like the tools that they put with the cars to help get the lug nuts off, because quite often you just can't get them with that. So I've got this nice, I don't know, what is this, a 24-inch breaker bar, and I've got my torque wrench, and this is the 21-millimeter deep well socket that fits all the lug nuts, and then just a ratchet wrench. These are, and this, sometimes the wheel kind of seize up to the rotors and you got to give them a good whack to get them to pop loose. These are the items basically that I just used to rotate the tires in preparation for this trip. And so I'm taking those along, and I like to double check the torque, 500-600 miles down the road. Well, our next 500-600 miles isn't going to be a circle where we're going to end up back here. We're going to be 500 or 600 miles that way. And so I need to take the torque wrench with me to double check those lug nuts tomorrow or the next day. This is just a little pry bar, just for the fun of having a little pry bar, I guess. This is a tool kit that I carry with me in this car anywhere I go. I've got a little bit bigger one that I carry in the pickup truck and the FJ Cruiser. It's just an inexpensive basic tool kit, and it has really gotten me out of a pinch more than once. I'm actually surprised how often I've used this little thing since I bought it. I really don't like pulling tools from my main kit here in the workshop and taking them with me and have them rattle around a bag or something. It's a whole lot easier just to have a dedicated tool kit to carry in the car. And I'll show you where this particular one, the size of it, turns out just perfect to have a nice little place to store it. I'll show you that in a minute. one thing that's really important before any road trip, really, particularly any long road trip, is to check the condition of the spare tire. And this is one of those things that makes you think, you know what, I wish these engineers would have checked with me before doing this. They mount this so that the air stem is on the bottom side, so you have to take it completely out to check the pressure on it. All right, looks good. I suppose this gives some room under here for some storage. This thing, I found this toolkit that just happens to sit in there nicely right in that cavity behind the spare tire. Got my pair of work gloves, pair of crampons in case we are somewhere where it's too slippery to stand up, or if we have to walk in such conditions. I like to have some of these to keep from slipping and breaking my whatever. And a vest. If I'm working alongside the road, I just soon live to see the next few miles of driving anyway. Got a little IFAK kit here. I won't go into detail what's in there. It's an IFAK kit. This is a little Baofeng radio, and the support material in the back pouch here. That's just in case we're somewhere where we don't have cell signal. This particular one is set up for hams. I've got another couple in there that are GMRS, but that's emergency communications for an emergency. And a roll of duct tape. I never go anywhere without duct tape. Well, the bench is nice and empty, but that's not all. Oh, let's take care of this stuff down in front. I carry a shovel with me in the wintertime for obvious reasons. If we get in a snowbank, it's nice to be able to shovel your way out, because it's, well, it's a whole lot better than reaching under with your hands to scoop out deep snow. I mean, this car, it's a Toyota Venza, and it's got halfway decent ground clearance, but it is no FJ Cruiser. And if you get into deep snow and get stuck, it is usually the snow that's all up against the bottom of the vehicle that's giving you the biggest problem. And this is one that I paint with spray-on bed liner, because I don't like one that's rusty. It's one thing if it's up on top of the FJ or in the bed of the pickup truck, but this is going to be in the passenger compartment, and I don't want a rusty shovel getting orange rust stains on everything it touches. And the last thing down here, one interesting thing about North Dakota, it is amazing how far it is between gas stations out there. Just like when you're up in Alaska, you drive on the top half of your tank. We do that same thing very much so in western North Dakota. So unless I just can't find room to put it in there, I pulled this down off the top of the FJ Cruiser, and we're going to take this along. This is 4.5 gallon, and it is quite leak proof, and I'm going to take that along just in case. All right, wave 2. Let's do this one. This is the bag that a lot of that littler stuff goes in, but I wanted to show you some more of the stuff that's in here. This is a piece of heavy-duty plastic, and that comes in handy putting it down in the snow to change a tire, for example. This is my little Fiskars saw. It works pretty good. You can see it's got some sap stain on it. I've used that quite a bit, but you know, if there was a small tree down across the road, a tree about that big or less, I could saw my way through it with this. In the pickup truck, I carry a small chainsaw along with me. When you drive up some of the roads in the mountain out there, it goes up and then stops. And if you're up there and a storm comes through and a tree falls, there's some big trees up there. And we've actually had trees fall across the road behind us, blocking our way to get out of there. And so a chainsaw is pretty handy. This little thing is a little handy. Okay, this next bunch of stuff is going to make more sense if you have seen the video about the mouse chew. Okay, I got a little pile of zip ties. I got some rubber gloves. And then I've got some electrical stuff here. Okay, what's going on here? If you recall the video about the mouse chew, I have had some issues with that. Well, when I figured out what the connectors were that were being chewed, I realized that there's this same connector used all over under the hood of that thing. So I picked up an extra, or a 2-pack that day, put one on, and I thought, you know, it wouldn't hurt one bit to have that other one with me in case that happens again out in the middle of nowhere. A couple of the mouse chews have happened right here at home, but at least twice I've been chewed out and about. It'd be nice if the mice would only ever chew this kind of a plug off, because then I've got the replacement, but you know, it's at least one option of being able to fix it. I also have a selection of wires in about the same gauge as what a lot of the stuff under the hood is. I've got some, these are the crimp style connectors. I've got a crimper and a stripper, some electric tape, and then an assortment of marine heat shrink. And then I've got some sticks of hot melt glue. Those come in pretty handy for bush fixes. You just use this lighter to either do the heat shrinks or to soften up the glue and put it on something. It is amazing the amount of things you can fix with a hot melt glue stick. All right, that's all of that. All right, and I will pack the rest of the stuff into here later. So let's see what we got in here. This is the pillow. We like to have that in the car with us. Here's some toilet paper in a Ziploc bag. Self-explanatory. One of the big concerns if you get stuck in a snowbank or elsewhere for an extended period of time is the lack of restroom facilities. Now for guys, you can just hop out of the car and go a little ways. In fact, very little ways if you need to, but for others, it might not be such an easy thing. So I picked up a case of these disposable urine bags. It's kind of gross to think about it, but if you need them, you need them, and boy, we'll be glad to have them when that day comes that we need them. These are, oh, that's the other crampons. Yeah, I wondered where those were. So yeah, this is my pair of crampons that go over my big boots. The other one was my wife's, actually. I need to get those together. This is my fire starting kit. There's, I don't know, probably at least 8 ways in here to start a fire. There's also a little collapsible cook stove that I made. A little emergency bivvy. Now this is more toiletries stuff in a pinch. You know, there's toothpaste, toothbrush, some aspirin, Afterbite, chapstick, oh, some hand warmers. That's kind of nice to have along, you know, some of those disposable hand warmers. And a inexpensive little first aid kit. This is a little general purpose survival kit that's got all kinds of stuff. It's got some Mylar blankets and some duct tape and some fishing stuff and some fire starting stuff. The primary purpose I have this is this goes in my backpack when we go up into the mountains. We already did the flashlights. Got a couple more, another headlamp and another handheld. And another handheld. Like I say, you can never have too many flashlights. I guess you could have too many if I had like 100 of them or something. Okay, this is the kit of the other Baofangs. These are the Baofangs that are set up as GMRS. There's 2 of those in there and all the peripherals. A couple of different choices of antennas and chargers. Over the last several days, I have put all of this rechargeable stuff onto the chargers. This, you know, these are UV5Rs, but I bought an aftermarket battery that's a higher capacity battery, and it's also USB-C chargeable. The ones that came with these UV5Rs, the only way to charge them is to put them in the little stand that's plugged in with a little 3mm plug or whatever it is. I will opt for USB-C over just about any other option. Now, a lot of this stuff is available on Amazon. I'll put links below for your convenience. I am an Amazon associate, and that means I earn a commission if you use those links, but there's no added cost to you for doing so. Okay, the last thing, you might say, well, you got water, you got warmth, you got repairs. What about food? Well, I do have a little thing of food. Now, my wife is going to have a lot of food for the road trip in the car, and we even take some food along to, she likes preparing some meals once we get there without having to stop at the grocery store the first day. And so we will have plenty of food with us otherwise, but this is just some food that I always carry with me, and these two things will go in my backpack. In fact, this as well, the fire starter, those go in my backpack when I go up in the mountains too. So it's technically not part of my road trip kit, but it is part of my emergency preparedness. This is just bags of chicken and tuna, some sardines, some energy bars, some Spam Singles Light, and some mango bananas and some fruit chews. So it's just an assortment of long shelf life foods. I might use it this trip, I might not. But it's nice to have around. I don't ever eat Spam except for when I'm out in the boonies or spending the night in the back of my truck salmon fishing or steelhead fishing or something like that. It's actually pretty good after you've been fishing all day. One might question the judgment of taking a can of sardines with you into grizzly bear country. A lot of the trails that we go up have a sign at the trailhead warning you that this is grizzly country. Not the greatest thing to have around. All right, that stuff will go back in here. All right, that takes care of all the preparations for this road trip. The long distance winter road trip can be a little more stressful than at other times. Of course, I guess it's just the opposite extreme. It's no different than going across Death Valley in the middle of summer. You know, it's pushing your luck either way, really. But the more prepared you are, the less likely you are to have an event happen that you can't deal with. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions or anything about stuff in the kit, or if there's something that you're thinking of, wait, when is he going to get to the fill in the blank? Go ahead and fill in the blank in the comments below. Let me know what other things that you would take with you specifically for a winter road trip. I'm always happy to find new ideas of things to add to my kit to the extent that I can fit it all in the car. Thanks a lot for watching. PFO Channel out.